إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Dear brothers and sisters, the beginning of all good speech is praise and gratitude. Praise and gratitude is the essence of the conscious soul who recognized the big blessing that was given to it in its existence. So we live here in Charlotte, North Carolina, blessed in so many different ways. It is crucial for all of us to wake up and live our day out in thanks, in gratitude towards our beloved Creator, Provider, and Sustainer. The ultimate show of thanks is to seek Him, to call upon Him, to remember Him by following His guidance that He laid out through the example of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as the final messenger and prophet sent to mankind, his purpose was to emulate all that is good of all prophethood. He's carrying that final prophethood to mankind. So the Holy Quran, with which he was sent, the final message of God, preserved miraculously for all to know the clarity of guidance, it has all of the stories of the great prophets before. And the Prophet ﷺ, as we'll see in our discussion today, he lived all of the beauty of those prophets. And we see he seemed to have elevated in piety and character and in accomplishment over those great prophets who came before him. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Today we're still here in Women's History Month. So we're talking about great women in the Holy Quran. So today we're going to talk about Solomon alayhi salam, the great prophet who was the son of David and established that great temple and had an amazing kingdom. And in the beginning of Surah An-Naml, it talks about how they were given a great kingdom, and then he asked that he be given the blessing and the test of a great kingdom that no one else could ever have. And so it's emphasized along with the wealth that he was given knowledge. Knowledge and wealth must not be split up. This will lead to a great problem in leadership. And so he has this knowledge and this wisdom. وَأُوتِينَا مِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, it says. We were given from all things, meaning every aspect of authority and greatness and leadership and kingdom. David and Solomon were given that. And so today we're going to focus on the story between him and the Queen of Sheba. Interestingly enough, most Muslims would say that the Queen of Sheba, her name was Balqis. This is not a name that is established with some sort of official hadith. It is a name that we have taken by custom. It could be her name and it could not be her name. What we know is Malikat Saba. That's what the Quran and the Sunnah officially refer to her. The Queen of Sheba is the historical. It's mentioned in the Bible, it's mentioned in the Holy Quran. The Queen of Sheba and her interactions with Solomon. So it all starts out, Solomon has this huge army of birds and jinns and great authority and dominion over the wind and all of the affairs around him in his kingdom. And so he notices when he looks up that there's a special bird that is usually out finding water for his kingdom. And this bird has been blessed with intelligence and reason and a specific ability to find the water. So maybe they were short on water or the people needed water, and he said, "Where is that bird?" And the others said, well, we don't know. He said, that bird better be getting back here now, otherwise he will face some serious problems. So finally the bird comes back, and he comes to Solomon alayhi salatu wasalam, peace and blessings be upon him, and he says, جِئْتُكَ بِنَبَئِ يَقِينٍ مِنْ سَبَأٍ. I have gone to this place in Yemen called Sheba, and I'm giving you some amazing news. Certainty, that the meaning here of certainty is that you don't know it. I have some amazing information that you need to know about. It's very important for you. So he's letting him know, while I did not take your permission to leave, I was in your service looking out for your best interest as our ruler. And here I am with the message. إِنِّي وَجَدْتُ امْرَأَةً تَمْلِكُهُمْ. He said, I found in this Yemeni kingdom a woman, tamlikuhum. Literally it means she owned them. She had the full mulk over all of them. And hum is the plural of masculine. So historically this is a strange thing, that there is a woman who has great rule and authority and dominion and kingdom over her people. So then he explains, وَلَهَا عَرْشٌ عَظِيمٌ. She has this amazing, huge throne, gold and jewels and everything. And then he explains, but the problem is, all of her people, they are all worshipping the sun. And they are misguided. And they are worshipping the creation. So now, Solomon has this very unfortunate situation in that there is a kingdom bordering him, because he's ruling the great Israelite kingdom, which is basically Sham and part of, the Arab Peninsula and part of modern day, or historical Persia. He had a big kingdom, But this big Yemeni kingdom to the south of where he's at, there are people worshipping the sun. So he is the prophet of God and the king. So number one, he has to be concerned about this great powerful kingdom and what kind of military threat that they may have, because they are living in an imperial world. There is not like freedom of religion, sovereign nations, UN, borders. All that stuff is very, very, very recent. Back then there was imperial dynasties. Everyone's looking to flex their might and their muscle in the military realm. So Solomon, he basically said, okay, we are going to have to send her a message. We're going to have to send her a message to let her know the reality. He said, here is the message. And so he had it written, beautifully inscribed, and then he had it stamped with his stamp, and he gave it to the bird. And he said, take it to her, directly to her, and then sit back and watch how her and her people respond to this message. So she's in her special elevated high suite of her castle. And she's up in a place where nobody usually can get to her unless they have authority from the soldiers and all of that, many security barriers. But then here comes this bird. And the bird brings her a message and drops it right in her lap. And then the bird goes and in the back of the corner of the room and just is staying waiting there. She's amazed by what she is looking at right now. So this message that he has sent her is actually very small. خير الكلام ما قل ودل. That it is short and it gets the point across. Right? This is the best way to talk, particularly in very serious diplomatic situations. We don't have time for paragraphs and confusions and things that can be misconstrued. It needs to be very clear what is this message and from whom. Right? So he couples, as you will see, between divine mercy and purpose and compassion and beneficence, and then there's a stern warning to her empire and the threat it possesses, and his warning to them about what would happen to them if they do not take heed to his authority. And then at the end, he is basically telling them that you have to be prepared for what's to come. So it's very clear. And so then at the end of this it says, وَأْتُونِي مُسْلِمِينَ. Come and see the message of God and embrace it, then you will see the evidence. So قَالَتْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْمَلْعُ. All my people, she turns to all of the nobles and the advisors of the court. إِنِّي أُلْقِيَ إِلَيَّ كِتَابٌ كَرِيمٌ. I have been given this very special, amazing letter. إِنَّهُ مِن سُلَيْمَانَ وَإِنَّهُ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ. It is from Solomon, and it is in the name of God, the Beneficent and the Merciful. أَلَّا تَعْلُوا عَلَيَّ. Don't flex your muscles in a military imperial dynasty next to my empire. I will not allow that. وَأْتُونِي مُسْلِمِينَ. Rather, come and embrace God, who I talked about at the beginning, and His message. So it's pretty clear. This is a threat by the neighboring empire. So the way she deals with it shows you why she has this great authority, as is confirmed by the Holy Quran about our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the way she responds is that she calls all of them and she says, look, this is very serious. And what we can gather from the text and the Quran is not about telling some long drawn out story that you get lost in all of the details. It gets to the nitty gritty. Allah knows that you need to learn a message from this, not do a history lesson. So she is gathering all of her nobles. What do you think? I would not take a decision without your expressed consultation. Because why? This is a great ruler that they have probably heard about Solomon and his great empire. I would imagine that's obvious. And so now, it seems like there's a threat coming from him to their empire. So she knows that I cannot take a decision on behalf of all of the people's livelihood that I rule without talking to their representatives and consulting them. So she said, what do you guys think? Because I don't want to rush to a decision here. They said, actually, we have a big army. We are very powerful. Ulu ba's, quwwa. We have great might and power and military means. So you let us know, and we will follow your rule. So we see here that her consulting them makes them want to follow and respect her decision. And that is the difference between the dictatorship of the corrupt people following their desires, drunk in their power and their pride, and the leader who is responsible and makes the right decisions, even if they do have the final say-so with no need for a checks and balances as we have in our modern systems. People will respect their decision-making because they have consulted. They have been consulted. So she thinks about it and she decides, well, you know what? We've seen great, powerful rulers in history and learned their lessons. They go and دخلوا قرية أفسدوها وجعلوا أعزة أهلها أذلة. They go into a land and they destroy everything, and they humiliate the rulers and make them humbled, simple people of disgrace, to show that they are no longer in authority. So she said, why would we bring such a thing on us? We've heard stories about Solomon and his great empire. So she said, let's test, is he really a prophet of God, like we're hearing in this letter, and we have probably heard before. So this woman, this great leader who is a woman in the Quran, and praised by Allah as a great leader who is a woman, she says, if we send lots of riches and wealth and some sort of big gift, a whole caravan, then if he's some sort of a power-drunk ruler who is fake prophet, a false prophet, then he'll probably accept it and then demand more and things like that, and we will know him and what he's about. But if he's truly a prophet that has unlimited divine support, he will probably not accept this gift and then show that he is not about a power of wealth, he's about a power of divine truth. So they went. And they take this message, or this gift, and they camp all the way till they get there, and Solomon hears of them, he comes and he meets them, he says, what is this? They said, the Queen of Sheba has sent us with all of this as a gift to you and your dominion and authority. Immediately, he said, what do you think? I have endless wealth. I don't need any of your wealth. I'm not in any interest of your wealth. You guys came here thinking, oh, now we're going to just bribe him or something. So he said, go back to her and tell her that we are going to send an army she's never seen before. And she better humble herself, and you guys better be ready for what's to come. So they go. So as the Hudhud has been following, we read from the tafsir, he's reporting the news. And so when they come back, they explain to the Queen of Sheba, he has no interest in any of our wealth, and it seems like he has much more wealth than you. He is a very powerful ruler. She said, then he probably is who he says he is. Because kingdoms never can get enough wealth. That's the way we see it in history. Even right now. You know, capitalism, the number just keeps growing and so we're all struggling just to pay our bills. Many people here in debt, trying to just live a normal life. But there are certain people, 1% of society, they have so much wealth they don't even need it. They will not need it in their lifetime, and their whole entire family will never need that wealth. And the capitalist system says, let's devise plans to make even more wealth, even though we don't need it. And there is no trickle down. So she knows this. She's a wise woman. So she sees that this man is a person of religious truth, not a person of wealth and power. So she said, let's all go and meet him, and we should embrace his message. Okay? So they go, army and everything. They all go to meet this great Solomon. Well, he hears the story, and he wants to set it in stone, because most people just really don't know the blessing he's been given. So he asks this jinn around him, he says, because God has given the jinns abilities that in our mind it seems impossible. But if you were to say to somebody 100 years ago, all the smartest people on earth, the greatest scientists 100 years ago, he said, you know what? There's a way to hold this thing in your hand in China and then talk into it, and then somebody across the ocean there will pick up this thing and they will talk to you. Or somebody can point at this thing at you, and then over there they will see you all the way across the world. What they would all say on planet Earth back then, this is ridiculous nonsense and it will never happen. This is beyond realistic. And if we go into many other realms of knowledge, we can see that we keep learning things that we thought were impossible. Things that were on, you know, Star Wars and Star Trek and all that stuff, it's becoming real. And so then this Ifrit Jinn says, I think after you finish all of your judgments for the day, I can go get you her throne and bring it to you. So this is قَالَ الَّذِي عِنْدَهُ عِلْمٌ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ. So some guy, or some person, some jinn, whatever, whoever it was, Allah did not tell us. And the reason is, because it's not important. Yeah, you see the tafsirs, they waste all this time trying to figure out who it was. Allah is telling you by saying it the way He's telling it, the point is the knowledge that this person was given, or this entity was given, is how something like that can happen, through knowledge. And we keep seeing with knowledge things can happen that we thought were impossible before. So one with great knowledge said, look, before you can blink your eye, I will bring you the throne. So Solomon, alayhi salatu wasalam, blinks his eye, and there it is. And immediately he said, هَذَا مِنْ فَضْلِ رَبِّي. Immediately he knows where it came from. This guy himself, they have no abilities in and of themselves to do anything. This is the blessing of my Lord. And I'm supposed to be grateful, and I'm tested right now. Will I just be so proud of the abilities of myself and my inner court? Or will I be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So then he says, now let's test her. Because nobody would believe that their gigantic, amazing throne, that there's basically none other like it, has been brought from Yemen to Palestine by the time she could get there. And they had in her court, obviously, huge security forces guarding all of the castle. So then here she comes. And she comes and she meets him, respectful, humble, and he says, look at that big old throne right there. Do you think that is your throne? She is. Now, the normal person would immediately say that's impossible, that's ridiculous. That's a normal thought. What are you talking about? My giant throne is here. How is that? Right? But she looked at it. كَأَنَّهُ هُوَ. It looks very much like that's what it is. So she's leaving. It could be, I don't know, but this is amazing. She has already seen plenty of proofs and evidences of the message and the truth therein. So he rebuked the sun worship. He said, you've got to stop worshiping the sun, and this is just a creation of God. It has no power. We worship the one who created the sun. This is how it is. Okay. So then he said, come to my castle, my court. So he goes, and then she's holding back, I guess, with her group, and then they said, okay, you can go by. She goes, comes in, and there's this river in front of her, and he's standing at the end of the room. He's like, come on. And she's like, I'm going to go in the river here? He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Come on. So she starts taking her pants up like this, because she doesn't want to get wet. He says, no, don't worry, it's just a glass floor we have here. She said, Allah, she was like, what? This is unbelievable. All that I've seen tells me that this is not the work of people around this guy. Aslamtu ma'a Sulaiman. She turns back on her, she stops her, she repents from her sun worship. And she says, I have submitted with Solomon. Because why? Solomon has no power in and of himself. Not li Sulaiman, to him. Because his kingdom is not his kingdom, and she knows that. That's how any believer would know. It is his kingdom, and we are all blessed to live in it. So she embraced it, and she became a believer. Rahmatullah alayha, rahmatan wasi'a, wa radiyallahu anha, wa ardaha. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. In summary, the story of the Queen of Sheba is amazing, and it carries a few very important lessons. Number one, if a woman is not tied down with children, she can become a great ruler. And there's no question about that, because the Quran describes her as such, and that happened in history, and there's no question about this fact. Now, you may have heard fiqh opinions based upon a different hadith. That's a long discussion for another time. But let's stick with the Quran for now. The second thing we learn is proper leadership is one that consults with those whom they are entrusted to lead. And so when they do that, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. It is by Allah's mercy that the Prophet was gentle with the people. لَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you are leading with rigidity and harshness and power and authority and control, my way or the highway, listen because I said so. That's why he says, فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. But as a leader, what you would do is you would pardon and forgive and overlook the shortcomings of the people you're leading, and you would seek forgiveness for them from God, and you would consult them in their affairs. And then after you have done all of that, you can take a decision and people will respect you. And that's what we saw with the Queen of Sheba, an amazing leader. Many, many great kings and men rulers did not have the wisdom, according to all of the scholars of tafsir, of the Queen of Sheba. So once again, we get this emphasis in the Quran that pure, complete, categorical gender dominance for men over women is false. It's a false, misogynistic, patriarchal, man-introduced ideology that has no place in Islam. And the potential in human beings, Bani Adam, is all there. We were created for different specific purposes, and there's a generality of purpose that men and women could have, and there are exceptions to the rule. And Allah has made this point in this story. And so we should open our minds and hearts and always be ready and willing to see the beauty in the exception to the rule whenever it is there. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us, to give us knowledge and wisdom that can help us to grow and develop and be His servants and have the kingdom that is His in our lives, in our families' lives, in our society, that brings greatness and goodness, and that we are grateful and very humbled by all of the blessings that we live by, and that we have a realization of the source of those blessings, and that we make decisions in our leadership that is proper and it is respectful of those to whom we are trying to lead, and that we understand the people that we are leading, and that we have a concern about their well-being, and that we make decisions that is in their best interest. Ya Allah, please forgive us for our lack of concern to the Holy Quran and deriving our lifestyle from it. Ya Allah, turn our hearts and our minds and our words and our actions to the example of the Holy Quran and the Prophet ﷺ. Ya Allah, make the Quran and its guidance deeply beloved to us. Make us yearn and long for it. Make us regularly study it and read it day and night with our families. Remind us that what we have forgotten from it. Strengthen us that which we have learned from us. Make us of those who act upon what we know, and don't let us become a heedless people. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us of those who are truly in your contentment and you are pleased with us, and that when we die, we are in your hands of mercy, worthy of your compassion and forgiveness. Ya Allah, send your peace and blessings and mercy upon Prophet Muhammad and all those who follow him until the day of judgment.